humans, it's just Martine and welcome to another reading vlog. Today's reading vlog is special because it's actually for a readathon. It's for a 24 in 48 hour readathon hosted by Rylanne. I'll link her channel down below. She's great. Love her channel. I'm so excited to participate in this. I have a vague idea of what I want to get read during the 24 in 48 hour time span, but I don't want to tell you a TBR and then not read that TBR, so instead I'm just going to tell you what I'm reading as I go along. Currently, it's like almost 9 p.m. on the night before the readathon, and it's starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I've been sleeping in past 9 for most mornings recently, but I would really love to get up and start the readathon with the other people at the same time and such. So I'm going to try to wake up tomorrow morning and start reading at 9. You'll know if that happens. I'm not going to lie to you about it. So I'm just deciding to open this vlog here while I'm more amenable. How shall we say? Because tomorrow morning, I don't think I'll want to talk right away. I'll tell you what I'm reading when I read it, and I hope I get a lot read. Final like push of summer before I take the GRE next week and move back to school and all that fun stuff. So let's get to it. Also, you're gonna want to stick around until the end of this video if you want to see how many pages I managed to read or how many books or what have you. So stick around, and while you're here, might as well like this video and subscribe. Cool, let's read. Good morning, 1 minute till go time. I'm going to start with the third Artemis Fowl book. I'm listening to that on audiobook and I'm currently at 15% of it. All right, it's 10:49. I got to 25% of the third Artemis Fowl book, and then I finished Dividing Eden. I had the last like 90 pages to read, and then I read the first like 18 pages of this book. Technically finished my first book of the readathon. Now I'm probably going to listen to Artemis Fowl for a bit, but I'm really annoyed because the hospital keeps calling and like moving things around, and I might not be able to get the tests I need done for like months now, when as of yesterday they were scheduled for next week, and I'm just losing my mind a little bit. It's almost 2:30 and I just got home from having like a late lunch with a family friend, and that was really fun, but it did mean for the past like 2 hours I haven't been reading, which is fine. I started Unidentified Suburban Object about 40 minutes before we left home, and I'm on page 100 because it's a middle grade, so huge text flying through it. So I'm more than a third of the way done with this, and so far I'm at 3.5 hours of reading completed for this challenge. So I'm going to start reading again. It's 3:40 p.m. and I just finished my first full book of the readathon, Unidentified Suburban Object by Mike Young, and I think I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a middle grade book about this girl who's Korean American. She's the only Asian student at her school, and then there's a new social studies teacher who happens to be Korean American as well. And in the social studies class, she starts doing a project about her family history, and it all kind of goes from there. There were some things about the writing that even for a middle grade I felt were interesting choices, like the use of all caps was very frequent, but on the whole I appreciated several things, including the fact that the best friend was like a really great best friend, super understanding when the main character was going through a tough time, even though she still like held her accountable for her actions and such, which was good. I also really liked the teachers at the school, because even though they were problematic in lots of ways, whether they were in racial ways or the ways that they differentiated between like good and bad students, on the whole they cared more about this student's well-being when she started getting worse grades and things started falling downhill for her and she started getting in trouble more. They cared about her well-being, her personal well-being, more than they cared about those things specifically, and just trying to get her the help that she needed. So I appreciated that. It's definitely a good book for people who feel like a fish out of water, especially young children, and it's fun. It's a fun twist on that type of trope or storyline, if you will. So yeah, it was fun, unexpected, and a little bizarre, and I'm glad I read it for this. It was a pretty quick read. It's about to be 5 o'clock. I just hit 5 hours and 48 minutes of reading for this challenge, and I just finished the third Artemis Fowl book, which I gave 4 stars. I think it's my favorite Artemis Fowl book between the first 3. I think the heist was just like top notch. I absolutely love a good heist, which is one of the reasons I like Artemis Fowl. Unfortunately, the 5th one, I would have to place a hold on, and all my holds are full. And so I did download the 4th one to listen to as I fall asleep, to help jog my memory about like the different plot points and important things that might be said in the 4th book, and then hopefully by the time my memory has been jogged enough, ironic for the 4th Artemis Fowl book, if you know you know, then I'll try to get the 5th one, or hopefully I will have read one of my different holds by then. So anyway, that's where I'm at, and I'm going to go spend some time with family. It's just past 8 p.m. and instead of reading anything else, I managed to acquire 2 new books. My sister and I went on a walk after dinner, and we ended up going to the little library, and I dropped off a book, but it was like chock full. And so I was like, okay, I'll help. I'll take some of these off their hands. So I picked 2 books. One called All We Ever Wanted by Emily Griffin, and I think it's just a regular literary fiction published in 2018. But the nice thing about this is with my glasses, I can see pretty well. Reading for a long period of time can still be very exhausting for my eyes. And this is large print. So what a find. Don't get those often, but it's, again, very helpful for me when I do. And then I also found this Christian fiction book called The 13th Tribe, and it's about this group of people who are with Moses at Mount Sinai, and then they're basically performing, they're like worshiping idols. God curses them to wander the earth forever, never being able to see the face of God, and then suddenly it jumps into the future and somebody's hired as the head of security for an archaeological dig on Mount Sinai. There are issues between the archaeologists and this tribe of people. So I thought it sounded really interesting, but those are my 2 finds, and now I'm actually going to get to reading again. We are about 13 hours into the readathon, and I've gotten 7.5 hours of reading done. I read like 40 pages of my nonfiction book, and then I started The Disappearing by Lori Roy, which actually takes place in a small Florida town. So that's kind of cool to read about. And it's a thriller about a girl who goes missing in a town that's haunted by like a past serial killer, and also one of the main character's fathers, because it's told in 4 perspectives, used to be the like headmaster of this weird like boys' school, and there are lawsuits and trials happening over punishments at that school in the past. But yeah, I'm just trying to piece together what all is happening right now. I'm only like 60 pages in, but I'm enjoying it so far. So interested to see where this one goes. Alrighty, it's 3:51 and I have some serious filling in to do for you. So this morning I woke up and I got ready, and then the first thing I did was read the second half of The Disappearing by Lori Roy. I ended up giving this 4 stars, as I think you saw in my little clip of me putting it into Goodreads. So basically, this is a thriller, and I told you last night it takes place in Florida, which was really interesting, and it's told from 4 perspectives. But I thought the choices of the 4 different perspectives was really, really interesting. So the first perspective is of the mother of these 2 girls, and she's recently moved back into her family like estate. They live in a really famous house in the area. She ended up disappearing when she was like 13, like she was kidnapped or something. So part of the book is unraveling her past experience with that now that she's come back to this place. And then you have the perspective of her mom, so who has lived with her husband all her life, and her husband seems to be quite like abusive and just a terrible person in general. And then you have the perspective of the youngest daughter, who's like maybe 10 or something like that, and she's an interesting perspective to read on in the same way that there was an interesting perspective to read from in a different book with multiple perspectives that I read recently, in that seeing it through a child's eyes and seeing how much a child understands about something serious happening around them is like, it just worked so well in this case. And then the 4th one was the perspective of this guy, and his perspective starts like 10 days before the girl the story centers around goes missing. He seems to follow her around everywhere, and so you're in his mind and seeing what he knows about her disappearing, or if he did it and stuff, like leading up to the event, seeing him escalate and stuff. So really interesting thriller. I would definitely recommend. It caught me off guard in a couple of different places, so that was good. And then I finished reading The Lucifer Effect. I've been reading this one for a different video for a very long time because it's quite a long nonfiction book, but I'm glad to say that I finished it. And then I sat down and basically in one sitting read The Year of Living Awkwardly, sophomore year, which I'm not going to tell you too much about because I read it for a different video, so hopefully you'll hear about it soon. All I have to say is that so far today in general, I've had a good time reading, and I'm quite pleased with my progress. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to take a deep breath, and then I'll probably start reading another book or listen to my audiobook. For my audiobook right now, I'm 20% of the way through My Sister the Serial Killer. I started that last night. So far, so good. And today I've reached 6 hours of reading so far. So in total for the readathon, I'm at like 15 hours and 49 minutes-ish of reading. So I'm definitely not going to make it to a full 24, but like I'm really proud with all the reading I've been getting done. So that's the update. Happy Sunday. It is past 10 a.m. So that means over an hour ago, the readathon officially ended for me, but I personally ended it after I finished my last book last night and conked out. So I have 2 more books to update you on, and then I'll get into all the fun stuff, the statistics, and I think you're gonna find them really interesting. So I did finish 2 other books last night. One was my audiobook, My Sister the Serial Killer. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I thought it was a very interesting psychological perspective because on the one hand, it wasn't somebody who was oblivious to what was happening, but on the other hand, it wasn't directly the point of view of the killer in question. So that was pretty interesting to see. It was also interesting to see like the commentary on the lengths we would go to for family, and I especially thought that was chilling in the final conversation in the book between the 2 sisters. I thought the introduction of the comatose patient added another layer to it that I particularly enjoyed. I liked that we got to hear about the other sister's previous victims while also watching the progression for her latest victim. So all of that made it pretty intriguing. So I gave that 4 stars. And then I finished this book that I was at 18% of before the readathon called Ulysses Exposed, and I'm reading it for a different video. So I'm not going to tell you too much about it, just that it's a dark urban fantasy with minimal romance and that I gave it like a 2.5. So, oh, I also right after I had finished My Year of Living Awkwardly, I thought I was going to be able to jump into another physical book. And then I read 5 pages of Swell and I didn't retain a single thing. So I said, this is not the time for this. So I thought, oh, maybe a different physical book. So I read 2 pages of Legend, and likewise, my brain didn't hold on to a thing. And so I said, I think it's time to switch to my audiobook and ebook for a different format for the rest of the night. So I am counting those 7 pages in total that I read in my page count, but I didn't read those books. Getting into the nitty-gritty details, I read from 11 books, 4 of which I read from start to finish. For this, I read 226 pages of My Sister the Serial Killer. Since I started at 18% of Ulysses Exposed, I ended up reading 194 pages of that. Since I started at 15% of the third Artemis Fowl book, I ended up reading 280 pages for that. I read 90 pages of Dividing Eden, 265 of Unidentified Suburban Object, 374 of My Year of Living Awkwardly, 86 pages of The Lucifer Effect, 337 pages of The Disappearing, 5 of Swell, and 2 of Legend, and then 18 for Mishling, which brings me to a total of 1,877 pages in the past 48 hours, which is insane. And to give you some perspective, I finished 8 of the 22 reads that I read in July in the past 48 hours, which is more than 36% of the books that I read in July. And with my page count, I also read about 27% of the pages that I read during the whole of July. I am very pleased with that because I felt like I was having not my best reading month in July, and this definitely made up for it. So I got to a total of about 19 hours, 45 minutes of total reading in the readathon. So not 24 hours, but still a lot of hours. About 9.5 hours of that was on the first day, and a little more than 10 hours of that was on the second day. So quite pleased with that. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Have you read any of these books? If you have, what are your thoughts on them? If not, which one seems most intriguing to you? And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!